Okay, we are live.
Todd and
Yeah.
Rob in the
I'm not
afternoon.
seeing
Afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We are back with the new media show, and I'm happy to have Todd back with me here. So, Todd, how are you?
Rob, you froze up on me.
I did. Oh, I know. I'll say that the bandwidth has been a little rough out here in the big snowstorm that we
Hello?
got out on the East Coast. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
you didn't give my streams enough time to get up and running, Rob. My streams are just going live now. So hey, anyway, hey, here
Oh,
we are.
okay. Awesome. All right. Yeah, I'll always do some editing. I can always do some editing after this, Todd.
Yeah,
So,
it'll work out. So hey, here we are. We're back, or at least I'm back.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I've been trying to keep the show flowing here, and it's great to have everybody back with me. This is kind of an unusual time for us at 8 p.m. Eastern, and you're in a completely different time zone, so it's probably a completely
Yeah,
different day for you or something. Who knows? but
yeah.
but
Well,
anyway, yeah. So let's go ahead and jump in here. Is there anything that's been bubbling that you've noticed in the space? I know I do have a couple of topics that I raised on our artwork and things like that that we can kind of talk about, but just do our normal
well,
show. So,
obviously last week we had, talked with with on the show last week about the Rogan
yeah, with
thing
Mark,
and the public
right?
RSS feed. And I'm sure you went all over the whole strategy, but maybe to me it's a win. Spotify's woke up that open is important. So open RSS, although their RSS feed, as you indicated before we started the show, is totally jacked up.
Yeah, yeah. I think the big thing that I took away from it is that I guess, and James Cridlin has pointed this out in the newsletter, is that the open RSS feed that's now available through um, Spotify for podcasters rather than Megaphone, which I thought was really, really interesting on that front. But his feed has 2,258 episodes in it. I don't think Apple Podcasts is going to display that many. I don't know what you think,
Yeah,
Todd.
yeah. I think their limit is.
I thought
Because
it was like
remember, they changed the upward limit. I can't remember what the number
I thought it
was.
was like 1,000 was the max or something like that.
Yeah, I they might be okay. Of course, it's kinda dumb to have
Right.
that many episodes in a single feed just on the pure load time it's gonna take to load that feed.
Yeah.
Uh, mm,
I guess
yeah, yeah, so
Spotify's
that's
not concerned about the bandwidth, I guess, but he has to. I think you have to be considerate of the apps that are trying to render that, right?
right, right, right. Now if the apps are smart and, they're only gonna just kinda reach they're gonna read the header and a little bit of the file. They won't have to parse the whole thing if they're being smart in the way they parse feed, but,
Yeah.
really, ultimately, that's still a lot of episodes in the feed.
I I wonder though why they chose to go with Spotify for podcasters rather than Megaphone, which is more of a enterprise platform. Um,
I would suspect
is it for
because he's
PR
doing
reasons, you think?
I think it's because he's doing video.
Oh, that's a good
So
point. Right.
so
That's
he
a good point.
probably has
Yeah, I
to
hadn't
be
thought
on
about
there
that.
because of video, I would assume.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the platform that you upload your videos through too, right?
Yeah, so, obviously, they're integrated, so from an ad delivery standpoint, it probably doesn't
Yeah.
matter which publishing platform he's publishing on, but, um, and their announcement of them canceling their internal recorder in lieu of
Mhm.
Riverside was kinda news too,
Oh,
and
as
kind of
well as also their editor too, I saw. So you're not
yeah,
really gonna be able to edit in their platform. I guess
and
that's all
that
gonna
was a
happen with
big
the Riverside tools.
that was a big attraction before, for a lot of Spotify creators was well, not Spotify, but Anchor before. So my perspective on that is now that some podcasters that are going over there will likely not find that platform as appealing because they don't have onboard recording. But who knows? I might be wrong, or maybe they just found out that no one was using it.
Yeah, does that mean that they removed the ability in the app to actually record directly in the app to their platform? I
That's
wonder.
that's what I assume because you could do multi-person recording before within the app.
Right.
So, and
Yeah,
again,
all I saw
speculation.
was the editing aspect of it being pulled out, but I guess you probably don't want to have a recording platform without editing capability in there.
Yeah, it kind of one goes with the other. That's one thing
Yeah,
that we've talked about before. If we're going to build a recording platform, then we're going to need an editing platform too. So,
right. And then
yeah.
the other thing that was pointed out is that the artwork is 1.4 megabytes in size for the Joe Rogan cover art, for the podcast, and Apple has a limit of 500K. So,
Right.
right.
Well, what it sounds like to me is amateur hour over there. They don't know what they're doing, which not
Yeah.
surprising because they
Well, they've been off of these podcast platforms for a long time, but
well,
you
the
would
rest
think
of their
there'd be
customers
some institutional knowledge, right? Yeah.
well, the rest of their customers are supposedly on all these other platforms, and if they don't know the basic guidelines,
Yeah.
yeah, it
It's an
is what
interesting
it is. But
right.
you know, I don't know. I will see over the next week if they've read Pod News and if they update their stuff to make sure everything is compatible.
Yeah, I also saw that the Omni Studios folks, published their annual download benchmarking data, and it showed that their numbers are in decline a little bit after the iOS 17 update. So
No,
there's another one that's facing a little bit of a hit on the metric side, right?
yeah, that's not I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised at all. We've hashed this out. We've talked about this already. It's what happens when you underqualify a download.
Yeah. And the other story I wanted to cover a little bit that came out here this past week was the New York Times has suffered from a loss of revenue based on brand safety platforms. And that raises some interesting questions about where we are with brand safety platforms that are primarily looking at keywords, right? So the New York Times was getting hit with some demonetization type things, or they were losing campaigns because they were using words, I guess, that were triggering these algorithms and basically trying to cover some of the hard news around topics like the Middle Eastern conflict. And it does kind of point out the challenges of these brand safety and brand suitability platforms. And Mark Asquith and I did talk about that a little bit in last week's episode as well. And I kind of wanted to get your 2 cents on this too, Todd, of these brand safety suitability platforms really kind of market and promote themselves as being very, very smart, algorithmic, AI driven platforms. But what I keep increasingly hearing is that they're very keyword sensitive, which tells me that they're not as contextually aware as they need to be to keep from having just like, you know, basically to be blocked from monetization if a podcast uses a certain kind of word to describe a weapon in the context of a news story seems to be missing context, right?
Well, it sounds to me like they've they need to stand up to these brand safety platforms and say, "Why are you doing this?" And they've got enough clout in the space. They should just raise Cain But again, maybe the advertisers have said, "Hey, we don't want to be have any content that's running along any Middle Eastern content, like Gaza or whatever. We don't want ads running." So maybe that's been a decision by the potential advertisers that want to stay away from that content. So maybe their brand safety folks have, you know, applied the rule of accordingly.
Mhm. Yeah, I just wonder, and I've heard other podcasters, and I think we mentioned it probably last week to some degree, but there has been some big podcasters that have been feeling the pressure from these brand safety platforms that they have to adjust their content, and what they talk about, especially comedians, right? That are increasingly feeling like if they want to have a successful ad campaign, they have to, with certain advertisers that they can't go into certain topic areas, right? Else they'll get demonetized from it. And I think this is kind of a little bit of a dangerous trend because I don't believe that there's a lot of solid data around um, brands really kind of like losing revenue opportunities when they're around content that maybe is controversial. And I think this gets back to more of an agenda around ideology than it is around
Well,
business.
well,
And that's
again,
what's really, really driving it.
I think it's all about the advertisers. The advertisers have said, we do not want to be in this type of content that's using these types of words or topics.
Right.
And so, because the podcasters have agreed to be on these platforms that
Well,
look at
some
their
have, and
shows,
some for the longest period of time, Todd, a lot of these podcasters, big shows, didn't even realize that the advertisers were evaluating them based on these platforms.
well, then
I think
that
now
is
it's a little bit more above board now, um, because these platforms have been working more with podcast networks and platforms, that are selling advertising on a larger scale.
well,
And then
that's the podcaster's fault for not being informed. That's if you're in
well,
the
if it was
ad business,
getting kept from them, Todd,
oh,
that
that's
was the
true
other
too.
part of this that was going on in the early days of these brand safety platforms, is that I heard directly from some that, because I asked them, I said, "So do all the podcasters that you evaluate know that they're being evaluated?" And the answer I oftentimes got was, "Probably not." So, these things are increasingly being brought to the podcaster's attention. Um, and I think that's why we saw like Conan O'Brien kind of do a whole episode on this and talk about it. Actually, if you want to do a search for Conan O'Brien and brand safety, in YouTube, you can see what I'm talking about. He got in there and was talking about, well, I can't I can't do certain jokes anymore, if I wanted my show to be sponsored. So it's causing him to change his content. And that's what my biggest worry has been all along, is that this creates an environment of podcasters self-censorship. And
Again,
yeah,
I guess I'm at this point in the game, as long as this has been around and talked about, I guess I have no self-pity on this,
yeah,
and again, um, you've made the choice, and if you want revenue from advertising, then you have to play the game, and if that means changing your content, then you have to change your content to play the game to keep your revenue up, or you wanna stay true and you wanna use your real voice and you want to, um, throw a double middle finger up at the advertisers, then you do content as you want to do and you suffer the decline in advertising dollars.
yeah.
Or you complain and you raise Cain and you say, "This is wrong." I don't think the advertisers care. I think the advertisers are basically taking a very, conservative approach and careful on the type of content they're advertising in, and
Yeah. No, I
it's a
get
sign of the
their
time.
goals. Right. I get their goals, but there's not a lot of data that maps to them
Oh, I
being in podcasts that are controversial and their ROI going down.
I think it's just I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction, and remember, one
Well, it's
thing we have to think
ideology, Todd. It's
yeah,
it's it's if these topics are talking about areas that their brands don't wanna
right,
be
right, right,
associated
right.
with for ideological reasons, then that's what's causing this to happen. Now, granted,
Yeah,
that's not happening in every instance here. These brand safety platforms are finding, legitimate hate speech, and they don't wanna be associated with that kind of stuff. But if it's stuff that is, you know,
I
that
think most
that that definition of hate speech keeps getting wider and wider, to
I
cover
think
more
the
things.
majority of shows that are running advertising, that they're advertising in the New York Times, they don't have to worry about having hate speech in the New York Times content. So,
Yeah, but
they've
those are
chosen
the ones that have publicly complained about loss
right,
of revenue is the New York Times. That's what was in the
yeah.
news. So, yeah.
So, and again, it was nothing to do with hate speech, it was just reporting on the news,
Yeah, it's like
and
talking about, war and talking about conflict and talking about the use of weapons and things like that was getting them demonetized. And I don't think that's what the intent of all this is, right? Is
no,
to
again,
right.
if, advertisers picked a topic that they don't wanna be associated with,
Yep.
then, the podcaster or the content creator suffers the consequences of that.
Yeah, and then I also saw in the news this week too that Spotify for Megaphone is looking for more inventory for political advertising this year.
Yeah,
So
we are too.
yeah, they aim to take advantage of a predicted election spend across all media of over $15 billion, and podcasters who block political categories won't get the incremental revenue. Is what the story came out. So, not quite sure
Yeah.
why, podcasters would block political categories. I guess it would be in categorization in Apple. Is that what they're
Well,
talking about here?
what we're doing is basically our programmatic provider,
Mhm.
our partner SoundStack, has
Yeah.
said, "Hey, we have political inventory," and so what our approach is we are breaking out shows left, right, and center, and basically gonna approach those shows and say, "Hey, um, do you want political advertising? And if you do you prefer left, right, or center?" And that's going to be the approach to it. So I would assume a left leaning show would want left leaning advertisers, political advertisers, which is kind of dumb because
Yeah.
to
It
be
is
honest
kinda
with
dumb. Right.
you, you're preaching to the choir there. So
Right,
um,
and I'm not sure that and this probably some research that needs to be done in the industry from some of the key research players is to actually look at brands that advertise on controversial topics that maybe, like a left leaning brand that advertises on a right leaning podcast. Is there a decline in revenue? And if there isn't a decline in revenue or ROI, then what is the real reason for blocking
well,
that ad from appearing
again,
over there? Right.
most political stuff is definitely awareness. But I think just like television and radio and everything else that runs political ads, I think podcast listeners may react and say, "I'm sick of hearing these ads already." It's only February and I'm starting to hear political ads, and
Yeah.
please hit me in the head with a hammer because I'm going to hear
Yeah.
this all the way through the election in November.
Though to be kind of bipartisan about this topic is that I think that there are certain brands out there that are associated with a certain political side
Oh
of the
yeah.
fence of sorts, right? That if they are heard advertising on media that would be considered to be on the right, maybe there is a chance that they wouldn't have as much patronage because they're seen as supporting the enemy of sorts.
Or or would
So
a or would a, show that's running back-to-back advertising like to hear a ad for product X and then have, an ad immediately follow from politician Y? And if,
from the
is there gonna
opposite
be
side of the
yeah,
fence, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just a brand, maybe it's a, Again, I don't want to even use an exact one in my brain
Yeah.
comes to mind real
Right.
quick. It's ice
Right.
cream folks. They have a certain political persuasion. They're pretty vocal about it.
Yeah.
So, would they want a conservative ad to run, next to their ice cream ad? So, I
Yeah, and
don't know.
it does kinda speak to how far we've come on that, that ideology is really causing this massive divide, even from a business perspective. There's this concept of parallel economies, so you have certain conservative shows that are only running ads from companies
Yeah,
that are vocal about their political
yeah,
orientation to the market, and on both sides of the fence, right?
yeah.
And it's really difficult, I would think, for the ad sales folks to really manage this because they obviously wanna sell as many
Oh,
campaigns across shows as they
there's
can, right?
there's a pile of money. This is a cash cow for radio. This is
Right.
when radio and television, they make the majority of their this is a 4-year swing that they salivate about because of all the millions and literally billions of dollars being spent in political advertising. This cash cow comes around once every 4 years, and they want every single penny of that. So, um, and of course, the political people want to, get their message out. So, I don't know. I just wonder though, based upon what's happening in the country, um, if it really even matters. Maybe it matters for local. When it comes to local ads, I don't think there's very many people that are undecided even today, who they're going to vote for in the main election for president. But I think what is important maybe is at that local level, that councilman or whatever it is and that's where we need to, if you want to make a change, we can't change what happens on the national level very much, but stuff for going in there and hitting our ballot box. But if you really want change, then pay attention to who you're voting for locally. I know even
Mhm.
myself, the last election when I went in, there was in Michigan we vote for judges,
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't know. And I had educated myself, so I didn't vote for anybody because I just didn't know, you know, which way these judges were or how they, because I hate to say it, politics does still apply and
Yeah.
when it comes to judges. So I didn't vote for any judge because I had nary a clue. So I think all of us have to be educated locally, and maybe that's where these ads would inform a potential voter. I think hyperlocal would be important because I might be interested in hearing one of those ads in someone's position.
Yeah, 'cause I think I heard that this coming year, there's gonna be more elections in the world than has ever happened. It's
Yeah, I think
it's
it's just a
interesting
cycle.
the alignment of it, of all those things happening at the same time in all sorts of different countries around the world, not just the
Yeah.
US.
That means by November, we're all just going to be sick and tired of hearing political ads. But
Well, and what side of the political fence are we all gonna get pulled into, having to cope with, right? I mean,
well, it's
is it
it's
the
not gonna.
left? Is it the right that's gonna take power in the US? But, as we've seen in Congress and the Senate just in the last 48 hours is that it's hard to really predict how that's gonna turn out, but
Who knows what's going to happen?
right, exactly.
My genesis is fire them all. That's my genesis.
Well, I think
That's
that is the consensus on on the right. I'm not sure that's consensus on the left. I
yeah,
think all the lot of folks on the left are happy with what's going on, right?
yeah.
On the right, everybody's objecting.
Well, it's someone asked me a question the other day about politics in America, and I said, "Well, that's kind of a hot topic. I really don't want to talk about it."
Right, yeah.
And it was one of these things where my position is people that run for election, they in their mind, they run on this holistic idea that they're going to change, and then as soon as they show up, there's this thumb that comes out and it's pushed on them. It said, "You will comply," and all those holistic ideas of change completely goes out the window because of money and seniority, and so that's why my thought process is fire them all and get completely fresh ideas, but
Right, right.
top to
Well,
bottom.
it's time to maybe have a refresh, right? Not a reset, but a refresh. But,
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
I did notice that in the latest share of ear study from the Edison research, it's coming up showing that, radio is still doing more than 3 times that of podcasts. I guess the average person in the US spends 11% of their daily audio time listening to podcasts. So I guess that assumes that 33% of the time it's spent listening to radio. So
Well, I think
what do you
little
think
by
about it?
little,
Yeah, I'd say that the 33%, even if it's that, is bit dramatically lower than it used to be.
I also saw some article that, and I didn't read it, they came across my radar, I think yesterday, where some radio guy said that the radio business was no longer viable. Something to the effect, and it was a big conglomerate that said, "Hey, this isn't work anymore from a dollar and cent standpoint." So, they're under great pressure to earn money. Maybe at some point, those local car dealer ads that you hear on radio will at some point migrate to digital, including podcasting. So, but
Mhm.
that's where the majority of money's being spent. But far as ears goes, I think as soon as someone buys a brand new car, my car doesn't default to radio. Matter of fact, I have a hard time if I want to listen to the radio. Um, I have a hard time getting to that menu item because it's Apple CarPlay pops up
Yeah,
and my podcast icon's right there, and bada bing, bada boom. I
it's
can listen to
easier.
stuff on,
Yeah.
on Fountain right in the car.
Yeah, I have, the Apple Podcast app in my Tesla, so I can access my account right there on the screen. So it's just podcasts. So I don't have to have any radio in there if I don't want to. So it's just a matter
Right.
of just popping up the app, just like on my iPhone or my computer. But I thought it was interesting too that as we look forward though on the radio side, there is kind of, I think, a, a little bit of a desire to tap into the podcast market on the radio. Matter of fact, just this past week, I started doing kind of segment promos for uh, a Beasley initiative that's playing like 15-minute clips from podcasts on their radio, like in a
Hmm.
playlist type of a format. And I'm doing the intros and the exits on each of those segments in 4-hour blocks on, I think, like 6 or 7 different radio stations in the US. So
Hey, did forget to mention we are lit and
yeah,
live on the video side for
okay.
podcasting 2.0. I have the video HLS stream going up, but not the audio today. So we are up on the video stream lit and live.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. So how are we streaming on the video side through the Lit platform? What's the
Well, right now what we're doing is you're feeding my restream
right?
with the stream. The
Okay,
restream is sending a stream over to Wowza, and Wowza is
got it.
running an HLS stream
Oh, they
that
are. Okay.
yeah, they're running an HLS stream that is basically configured to be able to be viewed in the modern podcast apps at
Oh,
podcastapps.com
okay.
to be able to be
Okay.
live with video.
Yeah. For some reason, I had this idea that only worked with the audio side. So it's good to hear
No,
that it's also on
yeah,
the video
it's
side
both.
too.
Yeah, audio and video. But, kind of it's a bit of a hack because Restream doesn't support HLS, so I had to maintain the Wowza account to be able
To actually do it.
to do HLS, yeah.
Got it. Well, hey, I wanted to mention too that the Podcast Hall of Fame full video from it's been they're
Oh,
kind of finished and remade, is now live on YouTube. So I'll pull it up on the screen
so
here.
how did it come out?
I think it turned out really well. So I wanted to play really quick a segment from it, with Dr. Drew doing the introduction of Adam Carolla. And
All
so
right. And the
let
comedy
me
that happened thus forth.
Yeah, well, the Adam Carolla video is in here, as well as
Oh,
his little call to Adam Carolla as well. We were able to keep it all together. So
oh,
here it
okay.
is.
Ski. All right. Here we are. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for allowing me back in front of you again. Again, my gratitude for this evening and for the inductees. So I was just thinking that I'm here to present Adam Carolla with his induction to the Hall of Fame. And I thought at no point did he say, hey, would you accept it on my behalf? No, I'll send a video. Thanks, Adam. So I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and I'm going to keep my comments very short because he didn't feel sufficiently invested to help us out here this evening. We'll see how short his video is. I can't wait to see that. But I talked a little this morning, if you were at that event, about his and my, how we got together and how that happened and the serendipity of all that. And we talked a little bit about the sort of the chemistry or the magic of partnerships. When you find the right partnership, things just kind of work. Other people notice it, they will let you know. And he and I got together in podcasting. It was really, I guess, him that pulled me into podcasting. We'd done Loveline, of course, and then he wrapped that up and went to, he essentially replaced Howard Stern in the morning on a syndicated radio show that eventually went away. And he took his little team and just decided he was going to do a podcast and started doing podcasting and was very quickly the most popular. He was sort of before Rogan, before everybody, the most popular podcast on earth. Is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most popular podcast. And I started thinking, well, what would he say is the model for a podcasting host? What kinds of features would he include in this? And so I've just made a little list. I was sitting thinking about this. And funny, you want to be funny, and we just have seen some great examples of people, great communicators, they're entertaining. He would say you need to have low self-esteem because he and I have shared that heritage together. It helps you check yourself a little bit. You always blame yourself for anything that's going wrong, and you, rather than wondering how things could have happened, you immediately blame yourself. In his case, he would say, number 3, you'd have to have an impoverished childhood, not necessarily a traumatic childhood, just impoverishment, which is something he gets a lot of mileage out of. I don't know if you ever heard him talk about his grandmother and his mother. You need curiosity, he would say that. And you would need to be somewhat fearless, not heedless, but somewhat fearless in expressing yourself and being honest and moving forward. And the final thing he would put on his list would be something he has pointed out to me multiple times, which is when someone asked him, one of the staff there said, Adam, you think you have a crystal ball. That's why you're so confident. He goes, no, I have a crystal brain. So he would say you need a crystal brain as you approach your podcasting career. So with those things in mind, my honor to be here tonight presenting the award to Adam Carolla, who comes to us virtually.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope he sent the video.
Yeah, it eventually
Now,
plays.
Susan,
Yeah.
call Adam.
Adam Carolla's video could not be with us this evening. Would you kindly
No
accept
way.
on his behalf?
Are you serious?
Oh, we got it.
Okay. All right, good. I was going to put him on the phone if that was the case. In fact, I should do that anyway. I'm going to call him. It'll give these guys a chance to cue things up. I know he's performing in Colorado, stand up, and yeah, buddy. Can you do one quick thing? Your video didn't quite show up. Can you just thank the crowd for the award, please? Ready? Well, they're working on it, but it's not here. I'm in front of the crowd. So they just need to hear your voice and say thank you for the award. Okay, ready? Here we go. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello? Oh, thank you, crowd. Thank you for this honor.
All right. That made him happy. Yeah, he's walking on stage in Mesa, Colorado, but he would. Oh, wait, here you go again. Tell him. Go ahead.
I'm honored, and if I wasn't about to walk out on stage in Mesa, Colorado, I would walk out on stage wherever the fuck you people are.
And thank you for the award.
True. Hello?
And thank you for the award, right?
Oh, yeah, and thank you for the award.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Adam. Have a good show. Do we have any video? No video. That's incredible.
No, it's coming.
There we go.
Wow. A Hall of Fame. Little old me from North Hollywood, California, in a Hall of Fame. Jesus Christ. Man, when I was a kid, I probably dreamt of the NFL Hall of Fame. Never even knew what a podcast was because it wasn't invented for another 37 years. But I am tickled pink. I've never been in any situation where I ever would have imagined that I could be in a Hall of Fame. And I just want to say this as a cautionary tale, Podcast Hall of Fame, let's keep it real. Don't end up like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Grand Funk Railroad is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Kate Bush is. Ugh. Do not ruin your brand. Keep it to the people who are keeping it real. That's right. I'm pointing at moi. It's Mexican for me. I never thought about it, and it's great, and it's probably the best day of my life. It's only tarnished by the fact that Dr. Drew's the master of ceremonies. Jesus Christ. Look, I don't get enough of that guy. But I will tell you this. Many years ago, probably 1992, I was doing comedy with the Acme Comedy Theater. I was doing sketch, I was doing improv, and I'd been there for about 4 or 5 years. And I said to the theater director, I said, what do you see me doing? Because I don't know where I belong. I'm not really a stand-up. I'm not really an actor. What do you see? I'm not really a writer. What do you see me doing? You see me as a writer? You see me as a performer? He said, you need a job where you just sit and talk every single day, and it doesn't matter the language you use or the words you choose, and you speak your mind every single day, and you just bloviate into a microphone. That's the job you need. And I said, thanks, but that job doesn't exist. And I realized all these years later, he was talking about podcasting. Now, he didn't know it, and I didn't know it, but he was saying, you were put on this planet to do this thing that doesn't exist yet. And we were both speaking about podcasting, even though I didn't hear the term for at least another decade after that. God, back in the day, I used to go to Bill Simmons' garage, and he didn't even have a second microphone. And this would be like 2005. And I used to have to call into a show with a phone and stand in the driveway while the gardener was blowing leaves on me because he couldn't afford a second microphone. Well, we've come a long way. So this has been my longest running job, longer than carpenter, longer than morning show host, longer than the Man Show, longer than Loveline, longer than gay porn. Passed that about 10 minutes ago. And the fact that you would even consider me to be in the Podcast Hall of Fame, well, I'm tickled pink. So thank you very much. And this award will be cherished, but I hope it's a real award, not some shitty plaque. Thank you.
What he would have said was, "Thank you for recognizing my genius." I know that's what he thinks anyway. So anyway, I'm sure he would humbly accepted it. He loves podcasting. He loves this organization. It's the fact that he picked up the phone was awesome. And trust me, this will not have gone in vain. He really loves this medium community. He was a pioneer in this area, and I'm sure he appreciates being acknowledged. So I will accept it on his behalf. But we are bringing this to a close. And of course, I'm grateful to have been here as your master of ceremonies. It's been an honor. And congratulations again to all the inductees.
Well,
Stories, voices that have shaped this.
Yeah,
y-
it was
you
interesting, huh?
here's the deal. There is, and that should be rinse, wash, repeat for about a decade.
Yeah.
To have people remember, he is about as real as he got there to say whatever the beep 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 you want, and not be censored, and
Yeah.
that is they got a little chicken skin there, um,
Yeah, that's why I thought
because
it was so important to play it because it's just an example of what happened during the Hall of Fame, and a lot of the inductees got up and just gave really, really impassionate speeches about
yeah
the medium and their history with it and what it meant to them and all those kinds of things, which really cuts to the heart of what this medium has and continues to be really, I think, all about. And I think it's really easy for the larger companies and big money to kind of gloss over that here.
yeah yeah
And I think between Dr. Drew and Adam and the other inductees, I think this is a very important um, video for, I think, as many people as possible in the podcasting space to watch, because I think what it does is it shows the culture, the history, and what this medium really stands for and what we should hold on to.
and we're talking beginning of the show about this stupid stuff about brand safety.
Yeah.
And you think about Adam in the early days of the Adam Carolla show, and even today,
Yeah.
um, you know, he says what he wants to say, and
Yeah.
and advertisers can go beep themselves, So it is a
Well, it wasn't that long ago, Todd, when the advertisers didn't really care about that stuff. So if you think
and,
about it
and
on the time scale of the medium, a lot of advertisers would have advertised because it was Adam Carolla, not
now this
because
this yeah
he had a political
this,
orientation.
this is going to probably get me in trouble, but what it is an indication of you have a I gotta be careful.
I know. Yeah.
You have people in the workplace today that have no thick skin,
Right. No, I think that's reasonable.
regardless of age.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of very, very sensitive people nowadays, and that.
you look at, let's go back to my sponsor, GoDaddy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I weathered a few
That's
storms before
that's a good
things got,
example, right? Yeah.
here I am advertising GoDaddy, and then the founder of the company goes out and shoots an elephant, and publicizes it. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God.
Well, and
What is
Todd, you're not even, I mean, that's just one salvo on the
That's one.
storyline.
That's
Yeah.
one. And
I
then
mean,
and
yeah,
then, then obviously there was and it was a different time, and GoDaddy has completely changed, and
right.
they are now about, making sure they empower women. But you think about Danica and the ads and not Danica, but the
The
ads that
other
GoDaddy
ads, right,
had was,
right.
um, quite provocative. If someone goes back and looks for some of those and GoDaddy ads in the 5, 6, 7 range, they were pandering to men in a
Yeah,
big way, and
yeah.
maybe even pandering was the wrong word there. It was so
It's just appealing to them. Right.
oh yeah, and if they were running any of those types of ads today, they'd be canceled in like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's why they changed their marketing strategy like
right, right.
6 or 7
And I
years
and,
ago.
and believe me, I thanked them when they did.
Yeah, because you were feeling uncomfortable with it too. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
'cause I was like,
Yeah.
I'd send messages coming, "Come on, you're killing me here. You're hurting my
Yeah.
sales numbers." You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't, and here's another thing. I didn't ever, um I was at some points, there was times when I had been there. I didn't make excuses for them. Let's just say that. I didn't make excuses in the show or in the advertising about this behavior,
Mhm.
you know? And, so I tried to stay true, to my moral values at the same time and saying, "Hey, I do not agree with what they're doing here. I still love the product, but I don't agree with what they do."
Mhm.
So, and thank goodness they changed course.
Yeah.
So, largely after, the founder left.
Yeah. Well, he was the one that was kind of leading the strategy, I would imagine, back then.
Right. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and you think about, brand safety, you know, it was more about podcast safety.
Right.
You know, for me, it was like, I had some audience members get uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I think that was just prior to the Me Too movement, really, which was really
Right,
about,
right,
you know,
right.
female rights and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and respect and, treating women, in a positive light in the professional workplace, and that became not a, cool thing to do. There was lots of men that were, thrown under the bus, let's put it to you that way, back in that era, and it makes sense that they made that change,
Yeah, yeah. So,
but
but
I
going
do
back,
think that Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew really speaks to the early days of media too, and kind of how we saw things. And I know, things change, and the media landscape is changing, and we're adapting. But nonetheless, I think it's helpful for a lot of people to really understand what the roots of this medium is. But I think that there is this increasing understanding is that we're moving into a new era with this medium, and it is changing. And I guess that was a big thing that Mark Asquith and I talked about too. And then also, I had Tom Webster on prior to that, and
oh,
he was,
you guys got some grief, in the chat channels because they were like, "Todd's not there to defend."
yeah. Well, Tom felt like the induction committee needed to be much broader in its scope, than how it was structured. I don't know what you think about that, Todd. Do you think that it needs to be expanded beyond just the inductees?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a pulse of what people out there think, and I think that there's a little bit of an ideological reason for this as well, that there's an interest in that. So, but I'm just trying to do the right thing for the medium, and I kind of know how others in the podcast Hall of Fame feel about this same topic.
Because as soon as you bring in non-podcasters,
Well, it's not that it's non-podcasters. I think what his
well,
point was is just bringing in people that are not necessarily the inductee, um, class, right? That can
oh,
become very.
I think what you end up having then is it turns political.
Yeah, I think that there is a definite danger of that, you know? Um, I've seen that happen before, so I'm I'm very experienced in that type of stuff.
I think in the end,
So,
if the classes continue to be diverse and
yeah,
representative of the space, um, AKA, even though it may be some of them are a different era,
oh,
um, I think
definitely.
I think it's important that those folks that basically were the foot soldiers that were
Yeah,
breaking
that
ground,
built the medium, right.
that built the medium, in all cases need to be honored.
Yeah. I mean, we
And
can't just skip over people because of
no,
a change in kind of political ideology,
No, no, no.
and somehow make those people less relevant to the
No.
history of podcasting, which is the whole point of the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
It's do we hold on, and this gets back to what I was saying earlier, do we hold on to what the meaning of the Hall of Fame is all about, or do we abandon it because of pressure
No.
around ideology?
And who's complaining? I haven't seen, and maybe you've seen it, but if people are
Well,
complaining about,
Tom has been the most vocal about it because he came on the show and told us his views on it. Though he wasn't very specific about it, he just
Mm,
generally made this comment that it needs to be broader than just the inductees. And I mean, to be fair, I did go look at like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Baseball Hall of Fame and all those and how they've set those up. But those have been pushed increasingly towards more of a accepted political infrastructure, which is not
right.
unlike what has happened with the Academy Awards and other types of awards
Well, the
organizations.
Academy Awards is payola.
Well, and
You
it's
know,
also not a historical thing. The example that I like to give is that this is like trying to open up the ideology to only nominate people for lifetime achievement awards, right?
mm,
And that's kind of what the Hall of Fame is. It's not it's different than an award ceremony like the Ambies or the Academy Awards, which is more like giving awards to content and people that were from like just the last year, right? And who had an impact. This is going
yeah,
back 10 to 15 years. And that may be a different kind of demographic group of people that we've just been slow to get into the Hall of Fame because of
right.
the 5 years that we've missed,
Yeah, the backlog,
right. And that
50
was the
people or
other
so.
part
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
And as you and I had talked about, um, I'm fully behind doing a catch up mid year if possible. But
yeah.
again, a in person event once a year, virtual on the mids, and do that for a couple of years in conjunction with the Podfest team to make sure that we get caught up and meet these people that are well deserving, because there's a massive list
Mhm.
of folks that should be. You just can't say, okay, here's the 60 that we're behind and let's induct them all at once, because you lessen the value of their time in the spotlight to tell their story. Um, where we had an unfortunate circumstance here with missing some years.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take a little while to crawl through that.
Yeah, and Tom Webster did acknowledge that he's looked back at the past inductees and agrees with all the selections that we've made. It's not like, well, he said probably there's a couple of exceptions that he can think of about who got inducted and who should have been and who shouldn't have been, that kind of thing. But
Right, right, right.
generally across the board, it's a very good group of people that have been inducted into it so far. And as you look to the future, the more people, just like you say, Todd, the more people we can get in, the fastest, the more we're going to be able to induct people that are seen more, you know, increasingly more modern folks from the podcasting space and
But I
less
think
of a historical perspective because we will have gotten those folks in there.
at the same point, there needs to be the component, and I don't know if this was not followed at some point in the early days. They said, okay, from this year, you had to be a podcaster in this year group and this
Well,
range, and
the first couple of years, it was a minimum of 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
And
And
then
then,
Dan and Jared changed the criteria to 5 years, and
yeah,
that's not even a hard and fast
yeah. And
rule
again,
now.
if you think of all the people 5 years plus, man, there's a stack.
Oh,
There's
it's
a stack
hundreds.
of great podcasters.
It's hundreds.
Yeah. And their own genres, and they've done their own thing in their own rights, and different groups and classes and, everything.
Yeah, and
And-
I've had even people reach out to me and ask for, well, why aren't there any sports podcasters in there? That
Right,
that kind of
right.
stuff. But my pushback to that is we never thought about a Hall of Fame as
Category.
being driven by genre of content. That's never
Right,
been the objective here. It's
That's what the
contribution, impact, and maybe some level of popularity.
And that's what the podcast awards does that I do, is it's a category based recognition system.
Yeah. And you
But it
do like like more of a broad award too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, we
Interesting.
have 30, we have like 5 categories that are broad and then 25 that are narrow.
Mhm.
So, by the way, the registration is open for the podcast awards.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Little plug here, podcastawards.com.
Yeah. And that awards ceremony is coming up again in September?
International Podcast Day, yep.
In September of next year, right?
September 30th of this year.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Right, correct. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it was definitely this whole Hall of Fame, opens up a kind of like a fairly large can of worms that need to be sorted out and decided in the industry of what we want. And the inductees want to have a say, but I do have to say that only about 2/3 of the inductees actually participated in voting this past year. So I would like to get more participation of the inductees, even in the selection process.
right.
So this is a little bit of a call out to anybody, if they are listening to this, that are part of the Podcast Hall of Fame, to participate in the voting, because we want to have your vote on who we need to induct going forward. And folks that are not participating in that process are really not helping us keep the process that we have. So,
Right. And, maybe there needs to be some criteria too. I don't know. Again, it's if you try to stay pure and keep it, because as soon as you start applying rules, then that automatically causes exclusion.
right. That's definitely a path that there could be pressure around. There's no question.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've seen other Hall of Fames do is to like bring in, let's say, a few people that would be considered to be kind of like historians or folks that were journalists in the podcasting space. Now, granted, that's that I
But
don't
at
know
the
what the
same
viability of that is, and I don't
Yeah.
know if we have any legitimate historians in the podcasting space.
But again, we have to remember that most other award systems
Mhm.
are monetary based. If you look at the Academy Awards, 100 like
Yeah, but
minimum.
not Hall of Fames though. Right. Do you
Again,
have
I'll
to
have
pay to be considered in like Baseball Hall of Fame?
that.
Or
No, I don't think so. But
I
if
didn't
if
think
you
so.
want to get an Academy Award, you have to pay your entrance fee. Uh,
I mean, it is an
So
interesting point though. I mean, it shouldn't change the selection process, but
I don't. Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure that a pay for play model really has the same
No,
legitimacy.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
People
Though,
complain enough that in my podcast words, people have to register to participate. But
right.
here's the thing, we don't survive if we don't have that. And obviously what we really need for the Hall of Fame is more backing, more corporate backing, more
Yeah, more sponsorship, and
more
that's
sponsorship.
clearly on the docket to do
Yeah,
in the coming years. It's not going to be as much of a Lipson event going forward. It's going to be more open to the whole podcast space and to try and get more broad-based support for it. Lipson has done a good job of kind of getting it off the ground and getting it moving, but I don't see that as a long-term approach.
so I think we just need to come up with a budget number and we need to get that budget number early.
Yeah.
And then go after the money. And if it's 20 or 25,000 or whatever the number is,
Yeah.
we need to make that happen quickly. And I had made a comment to Chris. You don't necessarily need a Dr. Drew level MC.
Master Summit. Yeah. Master Summit.
Yeah. You probably could save a little money there by, going middle of the road, or do you even need an MC? And maybe you find a comedian or, someone that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
know.
it's kind of the same thing. That's kind of what Podcast Movement did too, is they brought in a podcaster comedian is what the model was.
Yeah.
And even the Ambies do that too.
Yep.
So they usually try and get a comedian / podcaster. That's kind of the model. Dr.
Yeah,
Drew
that's
is a little bit of a different
Yeah.
character on that. scale.
Not cheap to bring in a Dr. Drew, so.
No, it's never cheap to bring any of these folks. So you
Right.
need to have. I mean, even a comedian, you probably have to pay for their travel and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
Of course.
it's they're showing up to bring some attention and things like that. And I think Drew, since I was kind of like his host at the event, I think Dr. Drew had a terrific time at Podcast Movement, as you could see from his comments that I played.
Yeah.
I think he had a good time at the event. He spent some time with some pro level podcasters in a kind of like a separate kind of Chris
Yeah.
has a pro track that
Yep.
has like maybe a couple of dozen big podcasters in it.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
Drew went in that room and spent some time with that group and answered a lot of questions and things like that. So I think he was really impressed, and he actually hung out with a lot of people after hours too. So you could kind of see him around.
Yep.
So he really kind of fit in there to some degree, and he's been a presenter at the Hall of Fame. I mean, the
Yeah.
last one back in 2022, he inducted Emily Morse into the Hall of Fame. So he's done this before, and that's why I thought of him, was because that connection with
Yeah.
Adam
Yeah.
and Dr. Drew was a perfect combo. And at the time, we were hoping that we could get Adam out there as well, but
Mhm.
he had already pre-booked himself on a comedy gig in Colorado, so that didn't wind up working out. But you could see the tension between. But I think both those guys were joking with each other more than it
Yeah.
was serious. I mean, both those guys have been working together for decades. So
And
they have their shtick, just like you and I have our shtick.
That's right. And I understand completely the cost. Cost is the cost.
Yeah.
I just got my trophy bill. My trophy bill was 21 grand.
Wow.
So
That's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. And it's those are real dollars. And
Yeah, and we have nice trophies with the Hall of Fame too. I got one on the shelf
Yeah.
right behind me up here. So
yeah, and those trophies, I know how much they cost. That
a
alone,
couple $100 each, right?
$360, $370 is what that trophy cost.
Yeah.
To produce, and it's heavy. So let's say 400 a piece. So you're just in trophy cost, you're at 3,200.
Yeah.
Which is not that big of a deal dollar wise, but it's still a number. It goes in the stack of everything else.
Yeah. Right.
So
true. Yeah.
I do understand the why Chris charged for tickets. I think that was probably smart on his part to recoup some money as
Mhm.
well. And it was a nice intimate crowd. There wasn't 500 people there. There didn't need to be 500 people there, because what is the award? The awards was more produced for the YouTube video and the audience later that get to view it. So,
Yeah, and we didn't have a budget to actually pay the production team in there to actually produce the video. There wasn't enough money to pay them, so they were the AV crew for Podfest, and they did the best they could. And and with the resources that they had, and thank goodness
Right.
that they're able to pull it together and come out with a finished, more complete video
Yeah.
of
And they
the run
color
of
balance.
show that I created. It's mostly what the run of show was that I created for the event.
They got the color balancing right on the video too, so you could
Mhm.
see the color corrected because,
Yep.
or maybe what was on the screen was just not good. Maybe
Right.
what was recorded was fine.
Right. Well, I mean, you can do a lot in post production, and that's
Yeah,
what's
a
been
lot.
discussed a lot. Is let's not do it live. Let's just make sure we get a good recording and then put it out afterwards.
Yeah, can
Is
do that too.
probably a safer way to go.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
getting that master recording is key, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
because they were really struggling with the bandwidth in the facility too,
Yeah.
and that was another big challenge with it. There was multiple things that they were struggling with, and I think the podcast movement folks have did a terrific job with it in the past.
Podcast. Oh, yeah, podcast movement, but yeah, now it's with Podfest, so
Yeah, it's a different production team and process and stuff, and
yeah.
they just hadn't done an event before where the podcast movement folks do all the productions, like say for the ambies, which I worked with them a lot with the ambies too. So they do a
You know,
fantastic job.
and them simply using a product like StreamYard probably could have improved
Yeah,
the live stream output, which, you and I joked about after the
yeah, but if they can't get good bandwidth, that probably wouldn't have made
Right.
a difference
No,
anyway.
wouldn't have made a chance, yeah.
So as long as they got it recorded. So anyway, I'm hoping to get you more involved in the group as well for the Hall of Fame. Here's we look, I've got calls set up with a bunch of people that were involved in it and trying to brainstorm for what the future looks like. So yeah.
Yeah, should be fun. Hey, one thing I did notice was, Rephonic. They did some matching, and I dug into that a little bit, and I thought, "Oh." So they went looking for podcasts that actually had the equivalent YouTube channel, and they came
Oh,
up with a pretty good list, although there's a lot of duplication from country to country. They did 200, and I was looking across 8, 9, 10 countries, and it was basically almost the same 200 shows except for Japan and a few other places,
okay. That
that
are like
actually
doing audio podcasts as well as video.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah. Or doing audio podcasts and have a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting matchup of data.
Hmm.
So I found that to be pretty curious because, I've done this myself as, basically went through and looked and then did my own. I went the other way. I went from Apple Podcasts to YouTube to try to find
Hmm.
the YouTube channels of, top 200 Apple
Right.
podcasters, and that did not come up with a large number of folks. So that does show me that there are YouTube channels out there that are doing well that are not making great headway in
The
audio
audio
podcasts.
side. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
but
guess, like what, Mark Asquith talked about on the show last week is that, it's not so much where we are now, or where we've been in the past is, well, where's the medium heading towards? And it does feel like that there's a lot more people thinking about video now than in the past. So
well, again, video's hard, so
it
we'll
is.
see where that leads. Hey, I do have to see here. Do I have one? Do I have? Let me look here. Let me do this. Hang on. Oh, I didn't. I got to turn this up. Let's see here if I can do this.
This is all wrong.
James Goodland.
So, did you hear that, Rob?
I did.
So I see this ad on Pod News. IAB compliant downloads for pennies. Promote your podcast trailer on the trailergram.co publisher network. Reach your ideal listener and receive IAB compliant podcast downloads for pennies. Start your first campaign at trailergram.co.
Hmm.
Hmm.
What day did that come out?
Oh, that's been running in the classified for a
Oh,
few
it has.
days.
Let's
Yeah,
see
and
if I can find it.
I kind of saw that and I was like, well, actually, what date was it that it ran? It ran on February 13th. I
13.
saw that and I thought, huh, IB compliant downloads for pennies. Um, it's just kind of an oxymoron a little bit.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
find.
promote your podcast.
Oh, I see.
It says
Promote your
promote
podcast
your
trailer
podcast
on
trailer.
Trailergram. Right. Publisher
Yeah, so
network.
so you're getting why would you be okay, first of all, why are you worried about IAB downloads on a trailer? Why even mention it? Because don't you want wouldn't you say, wouldn't your ad be promote your podcast on Trailergram instead of this clickbait IAB compliant downloads for pennies? Because I don't care how many views my trailer gets or listens, and why would I care about counting the downloads for my trailers? And maybe what
Well,
it is, maybe they're doing trailers of episodes.
well, they're doing. I believe what they're doing is they have like a teaser trailer that then will offer a link to the full episode. So that
Yeah.
may be they may be
Mm.
combining this together is what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah. Let me see how it works. We advertise your podcast trailer next to relevant content on reputable publishers and a network consistent of over 10,000 trusted publishers.
mhm.
Yahoo, CNN, ESPN. So they basically put you in a box. Trailer plays.
Right, and
Audiences
then
listen to your podcast trailer and are prompted to opt in on their phones to receive push notifications from you about future episodes. So in other
future
words,
full episodes. Right.
yeah,
It says
episodes
episode
listened
listens take place after trailer. Right.
after listening to your podcast trailer and opting in to hear from you. The audience is driven to our built-in player so they can listen to multiple podcast episodes. So basically, you quit paying them. No longer will you be able to. You have to convert that audience to a podcast or Spotify listeners. But it is a little. It's interesting. The wording is what tripped me up. The wording on buying IEB and what it looked like is we will get you IEB compliant downloads for pennies.
Yeah.
That's what kind of made me go, I have no problem with the service and what they're doing. But why say IEB compliant downloads?
Because they are trying to deliver people to full episodes. But that's like a couple steps down there. They're changing.
Yeah, right. So to me, it just it's a little
It's just a
odd.
way to appeal to people's interest in trying to drive their IAB download numbers. Right.
Yeah, and guys like me see that and they're like, "Oh, what are we doing here?"
But if the trailer is longer than 1 minute, it still gets counted as an
Yeah,
IAB download.
yeah,
But I'm not sure that it really does because I do believe, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I do believe that they actually host the trailer
yeah.
on
So
their
probably
own
it's not.
platform. It's
So
not coming off your feed.
yeah. So the end goal is, yep, you're driving IEB compliant downloads by getting them to listen to the full version of the audio file in their player. So,
Right.
but you quit paying Trailergram, and that player platform and notifications disappear. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, this page where it says monitor your monthly campaign, and it has 571,000 impressions, 50,000 trailer plays, and 7,100 push notifications. is it you or is it me, or do you get kind of that those numbers don't really line up very
Well, it
well?
makes sense. If you have 50,000
It does?
trailer plays, then if they've converted to listeners, then the impressions would be higher.
But is he okay, this is where my issue with the term impressions comes into play, is that what
Yeah, yeah.
constitutes an impression? Eh,
I'm
is
sure it's an impression play, it's a download. I'm sure all 3 of those are the same. They're using the word impression in the word of play or download.
okay, so they're using that word impressions to
Mhm.
be equivalent or the same thing as a download.
Well, they say you will be able to see trailer plays and, add impressions. Oh, so impression is the
Add
add impression.
impressions. So if your
Yeah.
episode has, let's say it has 6 ads in it,
Oh, no,
right?
no, no. What that
Then
is
that
the impression.
adds, yeah, because it's not,
The
it doesn't
in the
say
in
add impressions, it says just
Oh, it
impressions.
does say, "See trailer plays, add impressions, and how many people opted in for push notifications." So, impressions is the actual number of impressions your ad got on their
Right.
platform and their distribution
Actually
partners. So it
visually saw the ad.
is right, right. So it is a true impression then. So it is a correct
Right.
definition.
Right, so it's a visual impression of the ad,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the trailer plays is where they actually click to play the trailer, and then the last number is a 7146 is push notifications to subscribers. Those that are the ones that came out of the plays that went to subscribe. Right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. That's a that's a
So
pretty big delta, but yeah.
I see that James and Daniel have put together a new podcasting 2.0 information site, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I saw that. What's the path on
I
that? Was it
um
podcast, 2.0.org or something like that?
Yeah, let me find it's
Uh,
podcasting2.org, podcasting2.org. And,
2
yeah, podcasting, the number 2.org.
.org. Okay.
Yeah. And, I guess the thing that, I didn't know there was complaints about it being too hard. That's one of the reasons why when we put our documentation together at Blueberry, we talked about features and, kept the gobbledygook out, but they've got one for audiences and finding a better app, and it lists all the apps that are podcasting 2.0 supported, which this is nice because it just has the apps only.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you click the find a better app and then click on the blue headset, which is Podverse,
This one here.
and yeah, click on that. And then what happens is it shows you what that app supports, all the
All the
features,
tags. Right.
all the yeah. And again, I think from a listener standpoint, they're going to be like, what does that mean? So I think that's where there could be added confusion. So if we back out of that and then go to back up a page and click on for podcasters, and then it talks about upgrading to the namespace. And
Yeah.
again, I wonder where they talk. Let me back up and look at this. Yeah, they don't, here they should have talked about the podcast hosting platforms that are supporting this, but they did not.
Hmm.
Add your podcast, new podcast namespace.
Could that
Encourage your
be on a different area? Let's see here.
Yes, I'm just looking
Add.
at. So if you're trying to educate podcasters, then how, add your podcast to the indexed.
Yeah, they probably
Check
do
the
need to list the hosting
uh,
platforms and who
yeah,
supports what.
yeah, they say check, and I'm sure they're gonna this is a work in progress, but it says check with your podcast feed publishing tool for support of the you might even want to switch providers. So to me, I'm like, okay, let's.
Okay.
Well, what
Okay.
they
Here's a link here, Todd. It says check which features your hosting provider or
oh,
publisher tools support. So
oh,
if I
that was
go
on the
into
home
that,
page.
okay. Yeah, that's a different page.
Yeah,
So it lists Blueberry, Pod Home, RSS Blue, Captivate, Castopod, Dictopia, Transistor, Buzzsprout,
and
Fireside.
it looks to me like they've got them ranked by implementations, which I appreciate.
They do have Libsyn in here.
Yeah, click on it and see what it says for Libsyn. I bet it says transcript. No, it says locked. That's the only feature that they support is locked.
Locked. And then Spreaker,
Oh, they don't. It must be out.
transcript,
Yeah.
and
And then go back
Simplecast.
up.
Let's see what
Yeah.
Simplecast is.
The text tag,
Text for
which
transcripts.
is the one that Apple supports for alternate verification. Go
Right.
to the top of the list, then let's look at some of those at the top. I'll look at Buzzsprout.
Transcript, locked, funding, chapters, soundbite, podping, and person.
Yeah. So then if we look at I bet you if you click on pod, let's just go back to Buzzsprout and click one of those. And click on the transcript tag and see where it takes you. I bet it takes you to the page that describes transcript.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It talks about the actual tag
But
itself.
here's my challenge on this. This is the technical. Oh, they do a cross.
It
Oh,
says
that's interesting.
the apps that support the transcript tag are listed
and the
here.
tools and hosting providers. So they've done a good job on this.
So it looks like red circles in here too.
Yeah. They've got a few of these.
Captivate.
So, yep. Oh, then if you so how it's interlinked and you can look at who has what.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's
nice.
starting to get. I think, Todd, it's starting to get traction. It's clearly that just the fact that this site lists so many of the big hosts is
Yep.
a sign to me that it's making progress. It's been slow. I think
Yeah.
we can all agree that it didn't happen as fast, but the truth
we
is
knew this. We're still on
not
it.
much happens fast in this medium. So
Yeah, we're on it. It's the education process. It's like my presentation at Podfest.
Yeah.
I think that's missing some of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 11, 13, 16, 19. Yeah, there's a few there that are
So what's medium?
Medium allows you to be able to set whether it's a podcast, music, video, film, audiobook, music, set the type.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, this is something people can check out, podcasting2.org,
Mm-hmm.
and get educated on.
Says here, the mission of Podcasting 2.0 and the Podcast Index is to preserve, protect, extend the open and independent podcasting ecosystem. We do this by providing podcasters with new features for their shows, equipping developers with new tools for their apps and services, and most importantly, improving the podcast experience for audiences. So, yeah.
So, they've done a nice job on this site with the all interoperability links. So they've done good.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I didn't know there had been complaints it was too complex. But maybe James hears that on his side, but
I don't know. Well, I think for listeners, it's too complex, but I don't think it's too complex for the.
I do appreciate they did link to our Podcasting 2.0 resource page at Blueberry. So that was nice of them to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's complex topic for any of the hosts. the SaaS
Yeah,
models out
I
there.
just worry about when we start showing technical XML.
Yeah, right.
My only feedback is, and I know Daniel's trying to get screenshots. I saw him request stuff, so I'm sure there's going to be more added to this site to actually show the feature in progress. The actual what it looks like on the app.
Yeah, I think we do need to have like maybe kind of videos or visuals or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
know
yeah,
that Dave Jones did a presentation on this. That he has a slide deck.
yeah.
Um,
But it's ever evolving. It's just like my slide deck I did for Podfest, and I had a pretty good crowd.
right.
And sadly, there was a camera that was stolen at Podfest, so my session of all sessions did not get recorded.
Because your session was in the camera that got stolen. Is that what
No,
happened?
apparently they took I had a camera in my room, and they came in and said, "Sorry, we need to move this to another room." So I guess someone had more priority for
Oh, as far
recording
as actually
than my
having a
session.
camera in their room.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, than my session did. So I think someone recorded it, but I haven't been able to get a hold of the recording yet.
Mhm.
Well, it looks like we've almost made it here to the end.
Yeah, we did, Todd.
Did you have
Surprisingly enough.
Did you have a good Valentine's Day?
Yeah, it's been pretty slow. We've got about 9 inches of snow on the ground here. So,
Well, Live Podcast Media during the initial part of the show said, "Happy Valentine's Day, Rob and Todd. Is
yeah.
it romantic? Is it a romantic show today? Want to see both of you say 'I love you' to each other." Oh, okay, okay. Well, come on now.
Well,
Don't know if we'll go that far.
bro passion here, right, Todd?
Bro
Is that what
passion,
this
right?
is?
Yeah.
So
Bro fist pump. I am
right.
wearing an appropriate colored shirt today, so I'm wearing kind of a
There you go,
pinky
Todd.
shirt almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. So, yeah.
Hope you had a good one,
Yep,
and
I do.
hope you didn't spend too much on dinner and all the other things that go along with Valentine's Day, flowers and
Right.
all that stuff.
So am I gonna have you back, next Wednesday, Todd,
Yep,
or
yep, yep,
okay.
yep. Same time, same channel.
What's the date on next Wednesday? Let me take a look at that.
That would be
21st.
the 21st. Yeah.
21st. Okay. Yeah. We should be able to do that.
Yep, yep. I'm good. I'm good through the straight through. So,
Okay. At the same
all right.
time, same
Yeah,
channel of sorts?
yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, Todd.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. And I do have an audio recording of this, Rob. So, and I did get the video finally. That second link you sent me worked better. For some
Oh,
reason, I
good.
couldn't get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big video file for some reason. I'm
yeah.
not sure
You
why
just
it's
need
so
to
big.
change the encoding down a little bit. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be 5 gigs.
Yeah, I know. Well, what should it be? What's the playback encoding bit rate that you
I just changed the encoding rate per second. I reduce it down to like 1.3 or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I think it's currently set at 16 megabytes
Yeah. So
per
if you
second.
slower that K up, you don't lose too much quality, but
Like
for
in half or
static,
something like that? Like
yeah, at least,
okay. All right.
I re-encoded it anyway and uploaded it, so you can
Okay.
take a
Oh,
look
yeah.
on the website.
Okay, you did. All right. Okay, well, I'll do the same thing with this. So,
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
yeah. All right, Todd.
We'll see you later.
See you later. Thanks everybody for joining us. And I can be reached on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, and I do a live show on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern called Podcast Tips with Rob Greenlee. So tune into that. It's on the StreamYard channels. So I appreciate everybody. And if you want to send me an email, you can send it to robgreenlee@gmail.com. Todd?
Oh, I almost forgot. geeknews@gmail.com or at Geek News on X or at geeknews@geeknews.chat on Mastodon.
Yep. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you
We'll
so
see.
much. We're going to end the stream now. So thanks
All right.
now. Okay.
See everybody.
Bye.
Bye.